In this video on Market Dial, we're going to talk about new developments that have been going on in the Ukraine-Russia situation, which involve China. We're going to talk about our top 4 stocks we're going to be watching leading into Monday, and we're going to talk about Wall Street's flipping and flopping on oil and their bets on gold as well. So just a short while ago, the Asian markets opened, and on news breaking this weekend that Russia was asking China for economic and military aid to further their invasion in Ukraine. Investors globally are obviously looking at this as a sign of weakness, potentially seeping into the Asian markets should China give any sort of aid, whether it be economic aid or military aid to Russia. This would be viewed as undoing Western sanctions, and I think that China is probably going to tread this situation very lightly. They aren't going to want to see their economy get decimated the way that Russia's been over the last few weeks. And China being a business-oriented country, I think that they're probably going to just watch this from a distance. So Chinese markets and Asian markets as a whole have started taking a large hit simply at the request. And as I mentioned before, Russia's hole is pretty deep. China's probably not going to want to extend any sort of aid economically or militarily to Russia because they're already taking such a bludgeoning just at the hint that this could happen. And I could only imagine what the scenario would be should news break that China gives any sort of support to Russia. So aside from Russia's begging for Chinese help, the Western powers are probably fixing to respond pretty harshly at what looks like aggression in the western front of Ukraine, which is very, very close to NATO space. And as mentioned in many of my other videos before, our interest in the gold rally and the oil rally, it all essentially stems from a building of black swan events, which has had its cherry on top being the potential for World War III, which is a worst case scenario, arguably magnitudes worse than any pandemic. So what's interesting here is I think that the US as well as the UK and other Western nations are probably fixing to start bolstering their military support closer to the border of Ukraine and probably do it very, very openly as they see more aggression start coming closer to their territory. This is sure to provoke a Western response, especially should any miscalculations occur and any sort of casualty or damage be seen west of the Ukrainian border. All right, so that's enough news for today. We can go ahead and start talking about the more interesting part of this video, probably what most everyone is here to see. First on our list is going to be HUSA, and we've been covering this extensively for at least a full trading week now. HUSA has completed this wedge pattern we see here where it started to break to the downtrend, which obviously showed bearish signals. What I would also like to mention here, pay attention to the right side of the screen. You can see the ebbing and flowing of the oil market as a whole. This is something you can see on Market Watch. You can watch Brent oil as well as all different kinds of oil classes. This is very important to watch when you're paying attention to stocks like these because right now they're acting directly in correlation with the trend overall with oil. And as I mentioned, it's going quite in the bearish direction, so I would be looking to see we can maybe get down to that 160 or lower before buying back and recycling this rally and moving back to the upside potentially, because something very interesting about this whole deal is Wall Street doesn't even know what to do with their own money right now. They're bearish one week, bullish the next. As soon as one article breaks out that seems we could be in World War III by the end of the month, they start betting heavily on gold. They start betting heavily on oil, especially with the supply chain crisis I mentioned and the shock of supply and demand on this sudden crisis of oil. So these can skyrocket at a moment's notice. So definitely continue watching this one, and we can go ahead and start talking about the rest. Okay, so on to the gold part of this list. EXN is a stock that I'm watching very closely because it's been highly reactive to the fluctuation in gold prices since gold started to take off earlier on in this month. And going from prices of 81.5 cents to 366 in a very short amount of time is very appealing, especially if we can look to get down back to the support region and possibly see any sort of momentum play squeeze back up to $2, $2.30 or something like that. Like I mentioned, it's very, very highly reactive to the price in gold, and right now gold is very, very highly reactive in what's going on in Ukraine. So if you pair these situations up carefully, you can find yourself really, really getting in early in some of these big moves that we've been seeing. Next on the list is MGLD, and MGLD seemingly exploded as soon as it IPO'd the other day, reaching highs of about $8.87 from prices of around $2, which is an insane move. This also has a very, very low float. It's a very new company. It's also growing quite rapidly in the international community because it is related to cyberspace. It's also related to food, and interestingly enough, it's also related to video surveillance. And this company, as I mentioned before, is growing extremely fast, and it's trading in what looks like could be an obvious channel. It looks like we're at the bottom of this channel, so if we can hold here by the time market opens today, we could be looking to reach closer to the high fives. And if momentum continues, being that this is a new toy on the block and there's a lot of hype behind it, we could possibly see moves like this happen later on this week as well. And last but not least, we have GFAI. GFAI is a company which just the other day exploded as soon as it broke out above its MA, reaching highs of about $1.35 from lows of about the mid to high 40-cent range, before selling off pretty rapidly, breaking below the MA and holding at a price which is just above 35% gain for the day. And something about this company is they just made an agreement to acquire another company that is similar in its space for about the price of half its market cap. And this is also really interesting because a company this small that can make an acquisition of this caliber means that it does have potential to grow, and whatever it had in its quote-unquote pipeline for the rest of the year just expanded a good bit, because this company that they just acquired likely has new ideas, concepts, and innovations which they can use for their own company. And I think that this does show good squeeze potential, being that it just did squeeze pretty hard. And this news is still pretty early, so I expect the way that it possibly matured over the weekend, we could be looking for more opportunities here as well. So that's going to be all for this video. Next time, we're going to start covering topics related to trading tutorials, where we're going to start exposing new traders to trading concepts, how to trade, how to use indicators, and how to look for more promising setups in today's market. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel for more. Feel free to comment down below and let us know ideas you may have for future videos. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed watching.